destiny is not in their hands, but the mission is clear. Win your last two, and there's a good chance. On NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy.
Tiene tiro y gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
I'm Glenn Crooks, Roberto Abramowitz, your commentators on the radio side for New York City FC, Roberto on the Spanish, myself on the English. Welcome back to another NYCFC Views as New York City prepares for what are, every game has become more and more important as this season is closed in order to qualify for the playoffs. And an agonizing view for me. I'm not sure what game you were watching last night. I mean, you could watch multiple games, I guess.
You could, but I wasn't.
So I was on the CF Montreal-Houston game myself.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people were watching Chicago-Miami for good reason, too. 62,000 at Soldier Field. We'll get into that a little bit. But watching the game, Houston's really has, for the most part, outplaying Montreal throughout. It's at Stade Saputo. And then all of a sudden, Montreal scores late, Lapalainen, and New York City goes from control of your own destiny. And because I was looking at it, I was like, wow, if this result stands, you win your last two, you're in. Now you win your last two, and good chance you're in, but things have to happen.
It's not guaranteed. Right? I was watching DC in Austin, and I was because that's was
another
also
one. Since
because also New York City plays DC, so I figured do a little.
But that kicked off an hour later, so you could have watched.
I could have watched part of it. I don't know what else I was doing, but anyway, watching something else.
I was constructing a bed frame. I was in my garage. I was constructing a bed frame for a futon. You know when they send you these kits, and and when you order them, they say, easily constructed in 10 minutes. I'm not adept at all this, but it took me 90 minutes to do the. Don't tell me 10 minutes and then it's 90. But anyway, so you're watching DC.
So I was watching the DC game for more than anything else, and hey,
they didn't look very good.
No, they did. No. They did. I mean, because they're playing a poor Austin team that is, on the outside looking in for the playoffs. But they're
still right there.
Everybody except for Colorado is there.
Well,
and then the Galaxy wound up losing in the last minute last night. I did see that game, and so that cost them a point. But I mean, everybody else is still.
How about
alive.
all these teams? In the West, a lot of teams qualified last night. 5 additional teams. I'm just trying to bring it up here real quick. 5 additional teams in addition to St. Louis that had already clinched. So 1 through 6 with Houston, number 6 is done. Portland right now is in the 7th position, and then it's San Jose, Dallas, 8, 9. And then Austin is 3 points back. Sporting KC 3 points back. But also
Austin, not only are they 3 points back, but they've played one more game. So Dallas has 3 games to go, and that's key for them. Meanwhile, Austin and everybody else around them only have 2.
So Charlotte with 3, if we go back to the East and the effect on New York City FC, Charlotte has 3 matches left. So they have a game in hand on the field.
Yes.
If they were to win all 3, and 2 of them are against Miami in a home and home.
Yes.
Then they would eclipse the maximum points that New York City could even get. And then the other team to look at is CF Montreal. They have 2 matches remaining. So what we know is clear. If Charlotte and Montreal sweep and get 3 points, and 3 wins for Charlotte, 2 wins for Montreal, then New York City's out.
It's done. Yeah. Put a fork in them.
Well,
but so here's the situation. So this is what New York City does control. Okay. They can fully eliminate DC United by beating them on Saturday. They can fully eliminate the Chicago Fire by beating them the following Saturday. They could use, for the best case scenario for New York City right now is that either the Fire tie or beat Charlotte, and or they drop points against Inter Miami. Now, Inter Miami is going to lose Farias, is going to lose Messi to the national team. So I don't know how many games that winds up affecting Inter Miami. They looked pretty bad last night against Chicago. Chicago blew them off the field, which a record crowd, over 62,000 people at Soldier Field. They expected to see Messi. At the end of the day, they
showed up anyway. They knew he wasn't going to play.
Right, but they showed up anyway, and I'm happy. And then Chicago offered all the people that showed up, that I guess were there for Chicago, an opportunity to buy season tickets at a discount and giving them money back. There was a whole bunch of things that they try to do, to make it better for them.
My favorite tweet of the week came from a supporter of the Fire. When this discount offer was publicized, and they go, "What about the other 31 games? Can we?" Well, of course, that's not all home, but can we be credited for those as well? But anyway.
It didn't happen. And look, and then Chicago went out and put on a really good performance. Shaqiri had a couple of goals. And so, good for them. And we hope, for Chicago's sake, that some people decide to sign up for season tickets, and, there's more people showing up at Soldier Field next year.
Yeah, we would always hope. And you came up with a stat that you just saw as you were scrolling social media, I think, that it was the largest average midweek attendance in MLS history. Is that what you said?
over 25,000, and the previous record was over 23.
Okay.
So it was interesting, though, because there was a lot of games where they weren't highly attended. Obviously, the 62,000 for Chicago skews everything. But Austin had like a ton of empty seats. I've never seen it like that. And I don't know if it was no-shows, because when I went to look at at what the attendance was, they it wasn't publicized. Let me see if it's here, because when I looked last night,
that is shocking.
It wasn't. They didn't list it yet. They listed 20,738. So that's a sellout. That means that they had easily 8,000 no-shows. I mean, it was empty in a lot of places, and the team is almost out of it. They wound up winning. They beat DC. I don't know if there was a threat of thunderstorms or what the weather was like, if that had any effect on it. I really don't know. All I know is that I turned on the game because I wanted to watch that game, and there were a lot of empty seats, and it was never addressed on the air. At least for the part that I watched, I never heard them address it, and it was weird because this is a team that's packed every single game. And then as I was scrolling through some of the other games, and I saw there was a lot of empty seats. Montreal had a lot of empty seats. I think they only listed like 14,000 attending, and
midweek is traditionally been
I'm not going to give that as an excuse right now. And the reason that I'm not giving it as an excuse is because of the fact that all these games are do or die, right? Except for a couple of teams in the league. So 13,509 in Montreal.
All right.
So that wasn't good. Charlotte had a good one, but I didn't see if it was how many no-shows were there. They had over
30,000 plus,
30,080.
And it looked like that.
For their New England didn't have a lot. I think they had like 15,000 for that game. 14,144.
So this 25,000 average is a Soldier Field.
It's on
the
Soldier
Field bump.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's get to we're at the training facility in Orangeburg, New York, recording this episode of NYCFC Views. Got to observe training, which was very light today. It was almost a recovery day, as New York City really went at it hard in previous days, including really focusing on DC United yesterday. But we've got to go back to the Inter Miami match, and we spoke to Nick Cushing. Nick Cushing, part of my exclusive pregame, which you could hear 7:15 on Saturday night on the NYCFC network, where you can catch both the English and Spanish broadcast and live commentary of the game. So I went as direct as possible with Nick, and he, in regard to how the team felt and reacted afterwards, and he talked about his personally he's a positive guy, and he individually recovers from things like that quickly, and it's always about the learning element. Went into specifics about Santi Rodriguez's goal, which was the result of what had been effective all night, the pressing, and ultimately it led to Rodriguez's goal. And he talked about Rodriguez kind of individually coming up with something special when in he didn't mention Monsef Bakrar specifically, but it was about the lack of finishing and taking your chances. That sometimes when that's the case, and somebody's got to take charge and make something happen, and it was Santi on this occasion.
Yeah, and then I got a chance to speak exclusively with Andres Perea, and that's going to be on my preview on the Spanish side. And I'm a little bit taken aback, but happy, right? The fact that he's really positive and he's so looking forward to this. He said, this is what you live for these type of games, for this type of situation. And so it was very good to hear him. And he feels good about the team's chances about getting in and about winning these next 2 games. And that's what, look, New York City can only focus on that. Beat DC, beat Chicago. And then, you sort of hope that Charlotte or Montreal drop points along the way. As long as one of those 2 teams ties one of their last 2 games and 3 games, Montreal has 2, Charlotte has 3. As long as they tie 1 or lose 1, then and New York City wins their last 2, then it's over. Then New York City's in.
Yeah, so they still feel good about their chances. As for the goal that they conceded at the end of Miami match, that was a major disappointment for Nick Cushing and the supporters and everyone. But for Cushing and his staff, it's in particularly disappointing because they've improved along the way on set-piece defending, which was very poor early on. No one will deny that, and the number of goals that have been conceded in that area. Would not mention Richie Ledesma specifically, but just talked about focusing and staying engaged in those moments and killing the game. Killing the game is what we use in the terminology in coaching. Is you're up a goal and you do all the little things. He talked about a moment when the ball could have been dribbled into the corner and was not. Playing the ball to them in a unforced manner. Also about the Matt Freeze sending it in one hop to Drake Callender at the other end, the other goalkeeper, and who then put it right back in the face of New York City, which led to the corner kick. So managing the end of a game. Now this is there's a lot of young players out there, but here's one thing, and then you're on. But what he talked about, Matt Freeze, and that third straight keeper at Philadelphia, came here, had to fight not many senior league games or first team games. All that's understood. But at that moment, it is naive, but it's also, if you're a 14-year-old goalkeeper, that's the kind of thing you'd want to do. Sometimes I think this lack of experience at the senior level is overstated because it's what you would do as a 16-year-old. It's what you would do as an 18-year-old. And hopefully someone has, I'm sure Phil Wedden said it in Philadelphia at some point, how to kill a game at the end. He's working with Andre Blake, one of the best in the league. So it was an unfortunate moment. Look, maybe the ball got away from him. Maybe he struck it. Maybe he did try to punt it high in the air and let it hang for a while, and he drove it instead. So it could have been a technical error, but I think it was more not killing the game.
Right. But so here's what I want to go to. All right. So we established, especially in the last podcast, the Matt Freeze punt and then Richie Ledesma trying to defend Avilés. So here's my thing about that part. Okay. Avilés is listed at 6'1". Ledesma is listed at 5'9". I don't think that Ledesma really is 5'9", but that's maybe he is. But let's say we take those stats at face value and say, all right, 6'1", 5'9".
If he's standing on one of those platforms that you used to do what was that? Step aerobics? Then maybe he's 5'9".
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Well, I can go there. I need the step, in order to, sometimes even do an interview face to face with somebody.
Yeah, but we're not talking about you. You don't have to make this about yourself.
It's not.
Why is it always about yourself?
Yeah. Well,
Let me finish my.
This
point.
is what happens
again. You're not letting me finish my point.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, organization in the back line on a set piece also means that you've got to make sure that your assignments are correct. And you don't have a 5'9" guy defending a 6'1" guy who's the tallest guy there and probably the tallest guy on the field for Miami. So it should have been either Burke Risa should have been on him or it should have been Thiago Martins on him, right? Because those I mean, although Aviles doesn't have a goal, now he does.
New York City doesn't man mark on
I know, but
corners.
right. And
so
then,
it's
by
a
the way,
zonal area. So,
but it was not only that, but I mean, we all thought that it was actually Joseph Martinez who scored the goal, because he was there, he was right behind him. So if Aviles didn't get the goal, Martinez would have had an opportunity to head the ball as well. So they all missed assignments in that area where you can let two guys.
Well, we don't know exactly.
We
don't know exactly what assignment was
really
missed.
I know that we don't know
because we're not sure who was responsible for each zone.
Exactly.
So we don't know.
But
we didn't get a. I could have pushed a little harder, I suppose, but we didn't get a thorough explanation on it. And I think at this time it's we just have to speculate.
So right, and I'm sure that obviously in the meetings that the team had about, okay, if this situation repeats itself, what do we do? And they went over that. They understood what went wrong and what they could have done to do that better. And and as Nick continues to say, and it's true, this is a very young team and they're learning along the way and they're gathering experience from these situations. But honestly, they've lost now 6 points on the road in games that they had won in stoppage time and then allowed themselves to be tied. And if they don't make the playoffs or don't put themselves in a favorable position, at least in the 8-9 game, and they don't come out of that, then that is going to come back to bite them.
Yep. Well, there's potential for an 8-9 game at Citi Field or Yankee Stadium. New York City playing host to the New York Red Bulls. That would be fun. And our hope that it would be Inter Miami and Messi, that's pretty much down the tubes, I think. But
after last night, yes.
Yeah, they got slaughtered last night by Chicago. And I wanted to talk about just the preparation for DC United, but it started with Matt Pilkington. So Matt is the New York City FC2 coach. He's been in the academy and with the club since we've been here in 2015. I think I have that right.
Mm-hmm.
And just asking about, the two team is still training a little bit, but a lot of the two team players are participating in first team training as well. And they served as the scout team. They played DC United while the first team attacked and defended against DC United. And one thing Nick Cushing said, and he said it was they did it in isolated ways, looking at particular things. But he said MD Myers, who was the Golden Boot winner in MLS Next Pro, played a great Christian Benteke, who's going to be someone that New York City is going to have to deal with.
Oh, yes.
Statistically, the best player in the air in terms of winning duels in his own penalty area than any other player in MLS. So that's somebody that they're going to have to deal with. But let me. There's one other point I want to make, and I think this is exemplary on Pilkington and New York City FC and what they're doing with this two team. Matt told me that that New York City, and it's pretty much by far is the way he put it, played the most minutes of U16 or 16 and 15-year-olds than any team in MLS Next 2. And I just interviewed the Columbus Crew 2 coach, Laurent Courtois, and he said that New York City should be the team of the year because of what Matt does with playing youth. They didn't make the playoffs. They missed it by a small margin. But part of that is because they're dedicated to the development and the playing of the younger players, when many teams across the league are literally doing whatever they can to win, and that sometimes will exclude maybe a 15 or 16-year-old.
The priorities are set and the priorities are proper because what you're trying to do, the whole point of a two team is to develop players for your primary team. That's the main thing. And so, yes, you didn't make the playoffs, but you gave kids who are 14 and 15 and 16, the Maximo Carrizos of the world, the McFarlands of the world, you gave them a lot of minutes, and that is going to help them develop and become better players and mature quicker. And then you're going to be able to get them up to New York City to play on the first team. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, part of the emphasis on development, you wonder, MD Myers, the Rutgers kid who we talked about winning the Golden Boot, 19 goals, 8 assists, or was it 5 assists? It was Tati Castellanos was 19 goals, 8 assists. I think MD was 19 goals, 5 assists for his co-Golden Boot. But he's been training with the first team. We talked about him being part of the scout team. now the question with him is he part of the team that goes to preseason, and then does he make the first team next year if that's his choice or New York City's choice, and then maybe move into a role of backup striker? Is Monsef Bakrar your talisman, or is someone else brought in? There's a lot of questions in that area. We know that the lack of depth at that position has been a concern along the way. So I wonder how MD Myers will fit in. I suppose he's kind of on trial in these training sessions too.
Of course he is. I mean, he's been, for everything we've been hearing, he's been getting better. So that is a really good thing. And so what you want to be able to do is obviously develop these kids, right? And then you're going to see if you're going to be bringing anybody else in for next year. But, I don't want to talk about next year yet because this year is still here. The team has all, look. They make the playoffs, right? You make the playoffs, you're in the tournament. Anything can happen. You get hot at the right time. And I mean, New York City's unbeaten in 6. If you want to look at it from the most positive point of view, they're unbeaten in 6, and their form
hot over the last 6 games is tops in MLS.
Yes.
So that's a fact. You're still coming off this highly disappointing
and also tie. 5 of those games were at home.
But and 5 were at home.
5 were at home, so you got to put it in context. Yes, but you
can put it in context, but you went to Miami and you went on the front foot, and I
agree. The team is playing well. Yeah. That's my point. The context.
No, your point was that it happened at home, not on the road.
Well, it was.
Yeah. I know it. I'm just telling you, it carried over into Miami. Wasn't there a big question? Would it carry you over into Miami on the road? Yes. And the answer is yes. Lack of finishing and lack of concentration at the end, and it didn't work out in terms of the points.
Miami's only shot on goal.
One shot
on goal as opposed to shots.
One shot on goal. All right.
Well, but speaking of shots and the rival, which is going to be DC United, now they got smoked by Austin 3-0. Bruin, Driussi, and Hedges scored the goals for Austin FC. But you look at the stats here. Right, and DC United had 19 total shots, of which 8 were on target. And the star of the game, according to FOTMOB, was Brad Stuver. So, New York City.
Well, you watched the game. I thought you said they were horrible.
Well, they were horrible defending. I mean, the goals were laughable.
Okay.
I mean, go watch the goals. If you haven't seen
the goals. I haven't seen the defense.
Yet, the defense was just wide open.
Yeah.
And if they do that against New York City, they better take advantage of those opportunities and put them away. Right. And you want to hit them early. You want to hit them early, and hopefully you take the steam out of them, and they start getting depressed, and they don't want to play anymore.
So it's one at a time, that's for sure. That's coming up on Saturday. Again, New York City FC Network, English and Spanish, begins at 7:15 with the pregame show. All right, let's kick it around. All right, the U.S. men's national team, they're going to play Germany soon.
Yes.
October the 14th, and the traveling roster was announced today. Greg Berhalter had his presser. As you look through the roster, Roberto, any surprises on your end or any omissions? And tell us about the injuries. I know you.
All right, so here we go. The 2 big names that aren't there. Mark McKenzie, according to Jonathan Tannenwald, has a broken toe. Anthony Robinson has been dealing with a groin injury, so he's not. Those 2 are going to be missing, so no Jedi for them. Alejandro Sendejas didn't make the team this time around, and we'll see. He had a nice goal for America in their win over the weekend. And let me see, who else is there? The Gio Reyna situation. So Gio Reyna is on the team.
Yeah.
So good to see that. And there was one player who was absolutely new and sort of caught me by surprise.
Leonard Maloney.
That was him. Yes, who's a dual national.
Yeah, so we know very little about him. Greg Berhalter spoke about him briefly and kind of described him as a really hardworking midfielder, kind of plays with joy, and I think he adds a little bite to the midfield. That's one of the things that Berhalter suggested. The other...
I was going to give you a little bit of who he is. Okay, so
All right, go for
here
it.
we go. Okay, so he plays for a team in Germany now called Heidenheim, which I'm not exactly familiar with. I apologize, but I'm being
Heidenheim.
I'm being 100% honest here. So they've so that's who he's with. He's played 41 games for them, has a goal. Before that, he played 2 games with Borussia Dortmund, but mostly he's played for Borussia Dortmund's second team, where he had 61 appearances, and he had 2 goals. Started with Union Berlin and played for their under-19 team, who had 23 games. He played 1 game for Union
Where's he
Berlin.
from? I mean, what part of the world? Or part of the country, I should say.
As far as I know, all it says is that he's from Germany. So, but he's a dual national.
Okay, I thought
I
thought maybe he went to college. How old is he? Do you have that there?
Yes, 23 years old, born October 8th, 1999.
Now, Christopher Lund is back to play at the back, and he's interesting from a City Football Group perspective. He plays for Palermo, one of the 13 satellite clubs, which includes New York City FC. That's in Serie B in Italy, and he got a couple of games. He started against Oman in that last friendly sequence, and did a pretty good job on the left side. So you need depth at left back, and this guy seems to provide some of it. I think the interesting thing is in goal. Ethan Horvath and Matt Turner are the goalkeepers. Just 2 goalkeepers brought in, and they're both competing against each other at Nottingham Forest. With Turner thus far winning the battle. There's another keeper there that they're also battling against. We haven't seen him yet, but it's been Turner pretty much all the way.
Yes,
for
we
Forest.
presume that that's going to be the case for this time around as well.
And Germany with a new coach, Julian Nagelsmann, who I always have adored. He's one of these guys, some people like these kind of coaches, others don't, but he's constantly calculating, switching things up. But I just always remember reading the story. He was the first coach that I knew that did this. So Roberto, imagine that. And this is when he was, what was his first club? Hoffenheim? I think it was Hoffenheim. He had a big screen along one of the touch lines at the training field. Huge. I don't know how many feet. But he utilized it during training, where his staff would actually make clips, and he'd stop training, and everybody could just stay where they were positionally on the field. Let's say they were playing 11-a-side, and they would put some of the scenarios, and here's where you improve, here's where you should move, you could be better here. And I thought, man, this guy is all right. As far as I know, he was the first guy to think about doing that.
That's really cool. I mean, that's when you take advantage of technology and you use it to your benefit.
Yep.
I think that's very cool. By the way, so yeah, he was Bayern Munich for a couple of years.
Okay.
Leipzig before that, Hoffenheim before that, and Hoffenheim U19. He started his career in 2013, his professional career, first team in 2016, and he becomes, I guess, the first manager or coach in German history that gets named in
cycle?
In mid-cycle, because
nobody's ever been fired before.
Nobody's ever been fired before until the last guy.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Nagelsmann, which when he was at Hoffenheim, I think I have this right. I know he was in his 20s. I think he was 28 years old and the head coach of a Bundesliga side, which so it's a pretty amazing story. PGMOL, that's the Referees Association in England. They released an audio exchange. Did you hear this?
I didn't hear the exchange, but I heard it's horrific.
That's the VAR, the Liverpool Tottenham or really Tottenham Liverpool result, and the Luis Diaz goal that was disallowed through a VAR review. But they did the audio, and it was just, there was some cursing because they couldn't believe that there was a misunderstanding between and the thing I put out is, if you listen to this audio clip, it's like there's people talking over each other. It's just like, who's talking? And there was confusion, and at the end of it, they got it wrong. They knew they got it wrong, and so if you haven't heard it, you should just get on your social media and Google VAR audio Liverpool, and it will pop up.
Did you see what Wolves did, by the way?
Yeah, they beat Man City.
No. Well, yeah. Aside from that, but
Yeah.
what Wolves did was that they took Jurgen Klopp talking about that he wanted a replay and all of this, and they sort of put out there on social media. And they have great social media, and they go, "Oh well, so you guys got a goal against us last year that what shouldn't have allowed. You weren't in favor of replays then. They showed that." And of course, obviously everybody's going to advocate for their own team, but Wolves sort of a little bit of a reminder that, it goes both ways.
Gotta like that.
Yes.
Let's see. What else do I have up here? Well, we talked about Lionel Messi earlier. Messi Meets America. When's October the 11th? What's today? The 5th. So it's coming up in less than a week. That's going to be a 6-part documentary series on, and he's missed the last 6 games, I think now. And so the Messi in America, it's been put to a halt and on pause. And if as Inter Miami continues to tumble, without him, it's becoming more and more likely that he's not going to play.
That he's not going to. Although he was called up by Scaloni for the Argentine national team, and there are 3 MLS players that are called up: Farias from Inter Miami as well, and Thiago Almada from Atlanta. Yeah. So for all the Argentinian players out there and players for every other country, you can play in MLS and make the world champion roster. You can make MLS. You can play in MLS, and if you stand out, you can play for your team as well.
One final thing, Roberto, and that is the World Cup of 2030 is going to be played in 6 countries. What? Incredible. So South America will share 3, including Uruguay, and it's marking their hosting of the very first World Cup.
Yes.
And
Argentina.
And
Paraguay.
And then it's
Spain.
Chile
is like, hey, what about us?
And then it's Spain, Morocco. Who am I leaving out? And the 3 European sides, because I do not have it in front of me.
Was it Portugal?
Yes. So there you go. Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. So one game will be played in each of the 3 South American countries, and then the rest of the event. The thing that was most disturbing about this, Roberto,
the money grab?
No, was that immediately after the announcement of this, 2034, Saudi Arabia put their bid in for 2034 because it has to be an Asian Oceanic region team, country that plays host to this. Australia, New Zealand, they're in the background. Will they put in a bid? But the thing that was really disturbing was that it'll be moved to the winter again. It'll be moved to the winter again and disrupt the entire European season in particular. I can't. I know it's all about the money. I know it's all about the money.
They'll do it again.
Well,
I just hope I'm around.
Yeah, me too. 2030. How old will we be then? Oh, I don't want to. Hey, I'm not saying anything.
34. That's 11. Yeah,
30. Is that 11?
Yeah, 11 years. Yes.
Oof. All right. I don't know if we'll still be doing this, but
we'll see.
We just want to still be around.
Yeah, that would be nice.
We just want to still be around. All right. So a reminder again to tune into our live commentary. We'll be at Audi Field, Roberto and I, with our broadcast partners, Ariel Hudas for the Spanish side with Roberto, Matty Lawrence with myself.
In our nice glass cages.
We'll be in our glass cages, and if the ball is more than 5 or 6 feet off the ground, we won't be able to see it. It's just an interesting viewpoint.
If it was played by basketball players, we'd be, all we're seeing is shoulders down. It's the worst press box broadcast booth situation in the league.
It's pretty interesting. I'll put it at interesting. But the last time I was there to do a broadcast, Anton Tinnerholm was my partner. He was suffering from an injury, and he came on, and we had some fun. But I remember him walking in and going like, "Well, where are we doing the game from?" I said, "It's right here, bro." So we just have to deal with it. But we will call a wonderful game. New York City very positive going into it. It's they
really are. Yeah. I mean, they really, really are. The mentality of this team is extraordinary. especially what they've gone through this year. And
what else did Pereira say? Wow, what else did he have to say?
Nothing. That he really looks forward to these sort of games. And I said, what's the mentality in the club? And he goes, look, I really look forward to these games. This is where this gets exciting. This is why I love MLS, because these games are all do or die, and I thrive in these situations. So he was happy, smiling, happy, like, let's go, let's get this. So
he played a great ball across the top of the 6-yard box at Miami that didn't quite get converted, but
he's been such a positive breath of fresh
wonderful
air for this team in the midfield, and I really, really hope that they can find a way to keep him.
From Orlando to Philadelphia to New York City FC, Andres Pereira, and we'll see him in the 11. I'm certain of that. That's a very
we don't
highly
have the
educated
11,
guess.
but
We do not have the 11.
We do not have the 11, but we're
it,
pretty certain there'd be very few changes, if any.
Yeah. All right. So for Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks. Till Saturday night. Good day, everybody.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.